Hello, everyone. My name is Kateřina Peková. I'm the community manager at STRV. Welcome here again at our 13th online event in these quite strange times. It's really nice to see such a great show up here, and I hope that we will all enjoy this talk without any major technical issues. So firstly, I would like to just set a few basic rules how you can interact with us or with the other participants. Like the main thing is that you have a possibility to raise your hand. So you can use this option anytime you feel like that. We will stand up, we will call you up, unmute you, and you can ask the speaker directly, whatever you want to. Otherwise, you can ask your question in Q&A section and we will get to them at the end of the talk. Also, you can chat with others in the chat section. Just be careful because you can, other chat with all panelists, or together with all panelists and attendees. So always make sure that you are sending the message to the right person. Okay, I think that's more or less all from me. We are recording this session, so after the event, we will send you the recording and also the presentations from the speakers. And now I just want to introduce our speakers, Kijkov and Jan Bartos, and along with them, Daniel Kraus, who is platform lead at STRV. And I would like to give him the word right now. So thank you very much and enjoy, guys.
Thank you, Kate. One more welcome message from my side. Welcome, everybody. My name is Daniel Kraus, and I'm co-leading the Frontend team at STRV. With our team, we prepared one specific topic that we are very passionate about these days. And so we prepared some cool insights that I hope that you will find interesting and insightful, and hopefully that you can learn some of these stuff from our side. I won't be talking today. I will pass my word shortly to Danny, but I just wanted you to know that I'm here available throughout the whole presentation. So feel free to reach me out in the chat. And I'm talking right now to you people on Zoom as well as on YouTube, as there's a chat as well. So I'm here, and then I will join the Q&A session after the presentation. That's it from my side, and I'm passing my word to Danny.
Thank you, Dan, for the warm welcome. Hello, everybody. My name is Danny. As Dan mentioned, I'm co-leading Frontend team over here with him. And for today, we prepared you a wonderful presentation of 140 slides of image optimization. So let's jump right into it. Let me share my screen first, and afterwards we shall start immediately. I assume right now you should see my screen, right? And here we go. Image optimization. We live in a digital world, and online communication is getting a crucial part of our lives. Whether it's Netflix or Instagram, emails, online schooling, or social media, it's all around the internet, right? And our lives are becoming more internet dependent every day. In fact, since the onset of the global COVID-19 lockdown, there was a Forbes study that it says it's over 70% increase of the internet usage. And of course, images are the most important elements in today's app. We can think about the avatars, product photos, galleries, hero images, and backgrounds and illustrations. Images are simply all over the place. Thus, it's neutral. It's that images are the most used and transferred resource all over the internet. And it's actually great, you know, they're attractive, they help to convey our idea, they're telling us the story, and they're generating identification and empathy. But in the end of the day, all of this comes with a huge price. Sorry, just jumped in on the slide. So the price is quite straightforward, right? More we need to load, more we need to download. And in the end of the day, the longer load to time is kind of affecting our conversion rates, etc. Luckily, image optimization is not hard, and because it already was solved a long time ago. And in fact, actually, there are a bunch of smart people who did optimizations for us, and those are straightforward and easy. So let's jump into that. And before we will cover this part, let's start with some stats, because statistics will kind of show us why it's so much important. I started with a few stats from the http://archive.org. Those of you who don't know this service or this website, I highly recommend you to check it out. Besides the images, you can actually discover there are a bunch of cool stuff like JavaScript and CSS usage and what are the nowadays trends. And for our cause, I picked this chart. It demonstrates us what is the median value of the image all over the time. As you see, the trend is kind of getting straightforward. It's getting bigger and bigger. Except one small part, we can see like a small drop between M and N letters on a chart between 2018 and 2019. It's just a small like a metrics thing, but overall the line's supposed to be still flat. So the point is, both for mobile and both for desktop, the values are quite similar, and it's kind of reasonable because we have the responsive web design, right, and other stuff. What is interesting though is not just the medium size. What is also interesting is the amount of requests we are sending. So naturally, we have a bunch of images we would like to show. So therefore, a lot of requests are sent just because of the image. And as you see, again, those lines are merging together because essentially we are serving the similar web content for both mobile and desktop users. In fact, there is actually a funny thing that mobile is getting really similar or even close to desktop. And nowadays, we cannot distinguish what is mobile and what is desktop, because sometimes you can be mobile just by using a laptop and being somewhere in the mountains. It's still a mobile device. So numbers are interesting. Let's actually summarize them a bit. So we have 29 request images. I put an average size of it for 950 kilobytes, which kind of supposed to give us in total 27.5 megabytes. How long is gonna actually take to load 27.5 megabytes? Those of you who are in the chat, you feel free to ping it over there, but I won't be waiting much because I'm not sure what's going on the YouTube stream, so I'll just go forward for the next slide. And I prepared this table, which is talking or which is demonstrating us the theoretical speed for how long it's going to take to download such stuff. Well, numbers are quite interesting. I would like to highlight a few interesting points. So first of all, on a fast 4G internet, it's going to take just 2.3 seconds, which is quite fast. On the other hand, on a 2G, it's going to take 15 minutes, which is horrible. Well, when we are talking, for instance, about 100 kilobytes, it's almost instant on 4G, but it's still taking some time on a 2G. I know it's kind of cliche not talking about the 2G, but all of you know that sometimes it's just happening that our internet is dropping. And we as a front-end developers and overall product creators, we're supposed to think about each edge case. In the end of the day, actually, nobody wants to create the slow side, but this is exactly what happens from time to time. And now let's go back to summary and let's talk about those numbers again. So there is one simple issue with medians. From bytes definition, the medians are actually masking the problem and they are focusing just on the middle of the distribution. So we should ideally consider the percentiles at both extremes, like from the top and the bottom, so we are understanding the bigger picture. So there is yet another table, which is demonstrating us a few interesting values. So as you see, on a mobile and desktop, the sizes are a bit different because in the end of the day, still we are like serving a bit less content for mobile, but still those numbers are quite high. And what is interesting that we can have actually up to 79 images on a mobile and easily 90 on a desktop. What is more even interesting is the page weight itself. So we can see that the total size of the image could be easily achieved to the 6 megabytes. Going back to the table, it's gonna take to load forever on smaller or on the slower networks. And this is something we are going to prevent today. But before again, we will jump into that, let's actually question ourselves, how actually this is happening that everybody is knowing about the image optimization, and especially considering our current audience where the majority are front-end developers. The question is, how is actually happening that our apps are having such huge amount of weight? Let's start with the simple thing, which are the our, would say, in STRV favorite types of apps, and those are dating apps. So you may know, Tinder. I actually pull out a few screenshots from that. So for such Tinder, you would like to take a selfie, right? With nowadays phones, I have like the iPhone over here. It's easily to actually have 5 megabytes per photo. What is interesting, we have like one photo in my avatar, and in the chat, I have a bunch of conversations with other avatars. And if there is no proper internet optimization or image optimization, we can easily get up to 50 megabytes or even more. So this is pretty much the interesting issue. And now the question is, how many of you are doing the image optimization? Now there's supposed to be time for poll. And since I'm not seeing my Zoom controls, I unfortunately cannot see it well. Now here it goes. So majority of people seem to be doing the image optimization, which is great. I'm grateful for that. Well, now we are like 65 to 35%. That's interesting, right? So still, there is like almost more than half are doing the image optimization. So the question is, why is there a problem with the image optimization when we are doing that? To understand this question, let's actually explain ourselves what are the whys of this problem. So first of all, there is a big lack of knowledge. This is happening whenever you just simply don't know about such process and you're not doing that. And you, sorry, yeah. The other one is lack of time. So whenever you're actually aware of the problem, but you're not giving it enough space, it's just not being solved. Another portion is lack of responsibility. This is usually happening that, for instance, we are having backend developers who are not responsible for the problem. So even though they are aware of it, they are just not giving enough focus for that. Other one is lack of maintenance. So you can think of it, you know about the problem, you know how to solve it, but you just don't have enough time to do that. And you're not preventing such stuff in the future. Another big problem is lack of importance. You are knowing about the problem, you are maintaining it from time to time, but you're just not understanding what exactly it could, or what are the consequences of the whole thing. And this is exactly how I would like to, or on what I would like to focus for today. So first of all, let's talk a bit how to solve this whole image optimization thing. So first of all, it's sharing the knowledge, right? We had the lack of knowledge, so now we are doing the sharing of knowledge. This is exactly what we are doing right now. So thank you for all who are participating. I'm definitely excited about it. Then we are having also the dedicated time for that. It's instead of opposite of lack of time, we are dedicating that time. This is exactly what we are doing again right now. We need to understand that it's a group responsibility. Everybody who's building the product is responsible for its great output. And it doesn't matter if you're a designer, if you're a product owner, or if you are the copywriter. In the end of the day, all of you are building the great stuff. So that's what's supposed to be your main focus. And of course, lack of maintenance could be solved easily by automating it. So pretty much this is the topic we are going to cover in the second half of the workshop. And the very important part, of course, is giving the importance. And to understand this importance, let's just talk a bit about the benefits of the optimization. I'll start with the performance. Performance is a buzzword in the front-end world. Everybody knows that performance is great. And there is an amazing link, Why Does Speed Matter? It's made by Google. And actually, the whole presentation is going to be shared with you afterwards, so you can definitely explore those links and study more in depth. But I pinpoint, or I extracted a few interesting quotes. For Mobify, actually, 100 milliseconds decrease returned in 1.1 increase of the revenues conversions, which is great. And reduce page load time, again, can boot up a bit our sales initiatives. And again, reduction of the page load time can increase the conversion rate. Think with Google is one of the great tools which can demonstrate us what are the impacts of our efforts. So there is a link for that and you can play around with it, but it's a kind of theoretical knowledge we can play around with. But the point is you can like set up those numbers over there in the inputs, and afterwards you can see what is your theoretical income. Then there is a bunch of recommended reading. I would say all of them are great. So definitely take your time, read them through, and actually understand how to talk about the performance, because performance is one of the key aspects of nowadays internet and especially the front-end web apps. And there are, of course, besides the conversion rates and improvements of the revenue, there are other performance benefits. We are talking about better user experience. Of course, when it's loading faster, it's better user experience. In fact, there was a case study from the Ericsson, which is showing us that delaying of the loading of the website is similar to watching the horror movie. Then we have an SEO improvements. In fact, this is something that Google is again pushing very hard. And there are 2 articles describing what is going to happen soonish. In fact, in May 2021, the Google will be using Web Vitals as the main thing for indexing the whole web. So those who will be very well optimized, those will have such benefits. Another huge point about like doing the image optimization is affordability. So there are like 2 charts displaying great stuff from the what does my site cost. It was a website made by the Tim Cutlets, who is like well-known performance enthusiast, and pretty much it displays that not in each state the amount of gigabytes are equal in terms of like in terms of money, because you can have those prepaid cards, postpaid cards, etc. So overall, faster your website loads and smaller it is, it could be cheaper and more accessible and affordable for some countries, like for instance Madagascar, where it's actually taking a lot from gross national income per capita, which is amazing. And what is quite interesting, and not everybody's understanding that, image optimization can solve a CPU usage and save on batteries. So there is quite a straightforward, whenever we are having oversized image again, we have the small avatar, and when I'm uploading like the 5 megapixels image, which is quite huge, it's simply draining the battery because our device needs to resize it, needs to basically display it in the size which it should be. What is cool, actually, that the Stanford made a study that whenever you're using the bitmap images for splash screens, so it's even applicable for the mobile apps. So it's kind of kills the battery instantly. And I think the link is listed there, but yeah, I'm going to add this link after the presentation. There is one more interesting stuff. It's about the carbon footprints. So it's kind of funny thing, but it's just theoretical thing. But in the end of the day, more JavaScript or not just JavaScript, more kilobytes of web we are pushing into internet, more it costs, right? Because of all the infrastructure, etc. It's a quite great link. And Danny van Kooten, he did a simple proof of concept when he actually optimized his MailChimp plugin for the WordPress just by 20 kilobytes. He kind of decreased 29,000 kilograms of CO2, which is amazing. And yeah, sorry, there was also the Green Web Foundation, which is striving to have like, green web overall and having the good hosting services. So let's sum it up. What are the benefits of the optimization? We have better load time. We have better conversion rates. We have better UX. We have better SEO improvements. It's more affordable. We have cheaper infrastructure. And we have also reduced CPU usage and save on our battery. We're also doing the smaller carbon footprints. And now let's cover fundamentals. So we are understanding all the stuff and we are all set with the for the next chapters. And with that, I'm passing my word to Honza, who is going to cover the fundamentals.
Thank you, Danny. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Great to be here. My name is Honza. I work as a front-end developer in STRV, and I will be guiding you through the fundamentals. Give me a sec to share my screen. Do you see my screen with the presentation? Yeah, cool. And can you hear me properly? Amazing. So let's jump into it. Fundamentals are important, but it could be boring for someone who's in the industry for a while, but they give us this ability to overcome the lack of knowledge that Danny mentioned. Remember the example with Avatar, with Tinder, with Danny's Tinder? Here we have it. So adding an image to a website, it's our bread and butter. For developers, it's kind of easy to manage that. So here we have a snippet, very simple one, very well known. Just use a regular image tag and serve the source of the image. But then, because we are conscious devs, we manage a performance test. And guess what? It says that the image is not proper, something's wrong. The image is bigger than it should be. So here you have a technique or principle called responsive images. And we can fix the size by that. So what we can leverage is the source set attribute within the image tag, which allows us to provide a set of resources, variants of the same image with different sizes. We can basically serve as many sizes as we need. But then the browser decides accordingly to its viewport or density of your display.
Honza, sorry for interruption. There is this pop-up, from your presentation. Could you please shut it down? You saying us you don't have permission to play my media player.
Okay, yes, sorry. So as you can see, we can serve as many variants as we need for each particular case. But what we actually fixed? We fixed the size, but not volume. The volume can be fixed by providing the right image format. We know a few, such as JPEG, PNG, GIF, SVG, and all of them have their specific features. As you can see, the most commonly used is still JPEG, then the second is PNG, and there are the rest. But we also have another format commonly known as next-gen, such as WebP, Progressive JPEG, or AVIF. Here's, for example, an example with Progressive JPEG, how the browser processes the regular JPEG, which means line by line, or progressive JPEG, basically pixel by pixel. We can use the same image tag for this format. There are no special. But the problem with them is that even though they've been with us for a while, they are still not widely supported. Here's a screenshot of WebP image format support. It's good, but it's not 100%. And in order to use it these days, we can use our old HTML friend picture element, which basically says us that we can set up a few sources of sets of images, and some browsers are able to pick the right source according to their ability. If the browser doesn't know picture element or is not able to pick up the proper source, there's this fallback with as a regular image. But we can go even further. Have you ever scrolled an Instagram feed? You can, I bet you have. So most of the images are actually hidden. So why to load them right away? We can postpone loading images that are not visible when initial loading the page, and we can leverage this technique called lazy loading. The simplest way is to use native HTML attribute loading with an image tag, and you just specify that you want to load it lazily or lazy to be accurate. Or you can use, or we can use a special or some kind of JavaScript library to provide the same effect. The principle is basically the same. Usually, you mark the image by an attribute or a special class, and then let JavaScript or the library do the job. Here's an example with intersection observer. Sometimes it's still not enough. I guess you know this. It's very well known in Medium. It's called progressive image loading, and it's another advanced technique. Or these days we don't need to say advanced, but it's something, let's say, extra. And there are a few techniques, but the principle is still the same. First, we serve a very little variant of the image, wait until the original one gets loaded, and then swap them up with some transition. It's exactly what you can see here. Here's a pixelated, very little variant, pixelated. Meanwhile, the original image is being loaded, and then they are swapped up. Also, when the image is really important for the user, you can preload it. So there's this ability to put a link with rel preload to head of the document, and then you can specify which resources you want to preload and have this image even more performant. Another category of fundamentals is cache. Caching resources is a great idea to not load resources, or in our case, images, over and over. And we can leverage some smart techniques to save the internet data. Again, there are a few ways to cache resources, but this category is quite complex, so we would like to leave this category as it is. You can definitely dig deeper, but one of the techniques could be HTTP cache, for example, which is a native way of browsers, and you can go even for offline support. Which is provided by service workers. So another category is responsibility. So after all, it's not just about images. It's all about stuff that's closely related to proper optimization, such as accessibility, SEO, as Danny mentioned, or, for example, cumulative shift layouts. all of this stuff definitely influences user experience and performance. So here we are coming to the final stage of this chapter, the recap. So first thing we dealt with was how the actual image size influences performance. So we have this responsive images. The second was there are formats which also influences performance together with quality. We know like some kind of basic ones, let's say, and another one's called next gen. So file formats. The third thing was about lazy loading, progressive image loading, and caching resources as an advanced or additional effort. And the last but not least, there was accessibility and SEO and overall responsibility. So please build responsible content. And now I would like to pass the word again on Danny, who will be guiding you through the next part of the presentations.
Thank you, Honza, for covering those fundamentals. I believe those are very important to understand what we can do. I would like to just highlight one thing about the IVIF. It's probably the best format which we have right now, but unfortunately it's supported just on Chrome and Opera. Yet we can for sure use it with the picture element. Anyway, I'm going to share my screen again, and now you should see it hopefully. Here it goes, right? All good, all good. Alrighty. So a lot of performance issues stem from them simply not being noticeable of those who are building the web app. In changing that, wherever we can see, one of the best ways to make sure that all the low-hanging fruit doesn't go overlooked. There is one old wisdom telling us you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And let's start with the simple stuff we have in our toolchain, which are the browsers. I know for sure that a lot of you are using some cool stuff, and there is one great stuff that is not that actually straightforward. We can use nowadays the feature policies, and this is the simple set of the stuff we can actually set up in our browser to interceive what are the content we are serving. Those could be the oversized images, unoptimized images, etc. This is quite cool, though it's not the best what we can have, because it's actually the Devtools are the thing why we are using browsers. And from the Devtools, I would like to highlight the Lighthouse. All of us, we know Lighthouse, and we are using it perhaps on a daily basis. So speaking of Devtools, there is a bunch of stuff we can actually dig in from the network platform and so on. And also, we can launch from them the Lighthouse itself. So of course, it's applicable just for the Chrome, but I believe it's one of the best tools we have as a front-end developers. So I think there is no need to actually introduce the Lighthouse that much in depth, but what is cool there, it kind of shows us the performance metrics, accessibility metrics, etc. And what is even better, we can actually see what are the recommendations, how to fix it. Among that, we have also another tool. It's well known also for web developers, and it's called Web Page Test. So this one essentially is showing us, besides all the important stuff like the web vitals and some security score, etc., it will also shows us the waterfall chart and what are the DNS requests. This is super tremendously helpful to understanding how our page is being processed and how it's being loaded. The cool part of it is, of course, we can do the same part in the Devtools, but this is something we can share with our, let's say, stakeholders, and we can argue about. Then there are a bunch of other tools. So Cloudinary website speed test is actually a part of the web page test. It's over here, image analysis. So it's a free test. You can run there any website, and it all again shows you what are the opportunities of the image savings. Besides that, it also shows you what is the best format you can choose. So besides the WebP, it will also come to recommend to JPEG 2000, etc. There is one more service which is not that much famous, but is doing a great job in terms of again recommendations. Besides that, service itself is working in a way that you are just appending a small link in your footer or header of your documents, and afterwards all the images are being transformed on the flight on demand. It's quite interesting. There are also a few more stuff you can kind of incorporate as a developer. So I would like to start with the image bot. It's the GitHub bot, which is simply checking out all the stuff you're pushing into your code. So it's kind of working as a guardian of your production code. Of course, it doesn't work for everything, which is because not all of the images are a part of your repository, especially those dynamic ones, but at least it can provide you some general understanding where you're at. And now let's talk a bit about the manual optimization, even though it's not the goal for today, but I think it's supposed to be a bit, the manual optimization is supposed to be the main thing in our tool set and tool chain. There is a bunch of tools online available, and I would like to highlight a few of them which are really important or really cool to use. So first of them is Squoosh app. It's an amazing web app which is allowing you to transform everything on flight, and you can actually compare. There is like this drag and dropping thing showing you what is the original one, what is the new one. And the cool part of it is it's fully supporting the WebP and AVIF formats. Then there is the Kraken.io doing similar job, and SVG OMG is really amazing stuff. It was made by Jake Archibald, and it's actually allowing us to optimize fully the SVGs, so get rid of like IDs and unnecessary comments, etc. Then there is a bunch of others, and from the right corner or the right column, I would like to perhaps highlight the image optim. It's amazing software where you can just drag and drop your images and they are optimized. You can use it all together with Sketch. So simply whenever you're exporting stuff from Sketch, it's being optimized. There is an alternative for Figma, and the last three are just low-level libraries which you can use in your build tools. But yeah, now let's talk about the automated optimization because it's more fun naturally. So another old wisdom is telling us automatic optimization is great and could save a lot of time, but a very important question is when, how, and where to involve this kind of optimization. So we have essentially a few steps as a project creators when we can do that. So first of it is export time. By that I mean whenever we are exporting our assets, it could be again image optim for Sketch, it could be tiny image for Figma, or for instance Android Studio for Android developers. Naturally, it's doing such optimizations on flight as well. And there is another old wisdom: try to avoid re-optimizing images with lossy codecs. So lossy codecs are, for instance, JPEG or others. And whenever you are doing optimization over and over again, you can actually get into wrong results. So the point is, once you're exporting the stuff from the Sketch and then you're running it again through the build process, you can actually get a pretty not good content. So speaking of the build time, what we have in our build time, there are a bunch of bundlers which are capable to do so. We know Webpack, we know Parcel, we know ImageMin library. It's just a classic plugin you can attach easily, or you can even use it altogether with Gulp or any other task runner. There are also frameworks. We in STRV, we are big fans of React, so therefore there is a Gatsby, and also there is, well, never mind. So Gatsby is actually also capable of doing such optimizations, but in the end of the day, it's still Webpack and ImageMin, or in this case, it's actually Sharp library in C, which is doing the optimization. The point is, it's happening in a build time. Is it good? It could be good, but in case you have too much images, it could be a bit of overwhelming and your build time could take forever. So without the proper caching mechanism, your build time could reach the huge numbers. And therefore, we have also another trick how to prevent such stuff, and it's by using using some optimizations during our development time. So again, Android Studio is really far away instead of like Xcode, but for us as a web developers, there is actually one extra handy stuff we can use. You may know about the Precomment hooks. We are usually using those for ESLint or TypeScript, but it could also be used for image. So whenever you're adding a new image into your repository, you can easily just lint it and see whether it's optimized or not. And if it's not, it will prevent us from committing it and pushing into our repository. Of course, such stuff could be easily skipped, in the development time. So we should ideally enforce them somehow. And enforcing could be quite hard because, git hooks could be skipped and so nobody's actually watching your back, especially in the days of remote work. So therefore, we can ideally set up it kind of on a demand or by using third-party services. And of course, adding it to our CI and CD pipelines. So there is a bunch of stuff, again, we can use. I would like to start with next image. So those of you who are aware that there is a new Next.js version 10, it was actually announced quite recently. They have a new really cool image library, which is doing such optimizations on flight. So you can use as many images as you want, and it doesn't affect your build time at all. So whenever you're entering the website, it will actually be serverlessly processed, and the images will be optimized. Sometimes you can leverage some CDN services, which are directly optimized for such activities. I would like to name Cloudinary and Mjix. Those are the well-known stuff. Then we have Netlify. It's one of our favorite platforms where we are hosting our solutions. You can also self-host the CDN if you want to, or use the image kit. And there are also the GitHub Actions, which are for free. Calibra app are doing great job in that. So they are just basically scanning all the images you're, again, adding to your stuff. Instead of like what the bot is doing, it's working on a bit different principle, but in the end of the day, they are doing the similar job. Specialized services are great, but they could be quite expensive in the end of the day. Even though all the pricing is getting lower and lower nowadays, but you should be aware of what is the ideal pick for your site. You should be aware that, for instance, Cloudinary is allowing you to have a free credit and you can like optimize a lot of them. So does the Mjix. But then again, sometimes it's worth to investing some time and money just to provide your own infrastructure. In the end of the day, or for the end of this section, I would like to just name a few handy components and integrations we are loving here in STRV. And it's a few of them from the CDN services. So there is one from Cloudinary, one from the Mjix. Then actually a bunch of headless CMS we are using, they are having their own image processing libraries. Actually, except of the Datos CMS. Datos CMS is using behind the scenes the image Mjix. And of course, there is some other stuff. Once was named Gatsby image, and there is also Next Optimized Images. It was a library created some time ago before the Next image was announced, but this one is actually doing the optimization on the build time. Could be quite handy sometimes when you're needing your assets be like accessible during the build time for some CI checks or whatever. Okay, so now we know how to do the automatic optimization, and now let's think of how we can do this automated maintenance. So I mentioned CI and CD, and naturally we can render a bunch of stuff. So we can render the Lighthouse, we can render web page tests, bio, or GitHub apps. So this could be definitely essential part of your CI/CD setup, and we are highly recommending to use that because it can take your website to another level. And especially you don't need to remember that, and it's going to be kind of enforced. And there are also some stuff like performance budgets. Performance budget, it's just basically how it sounds like, you're setting up the budget on your website and it's not allowing to exceed it. So there is, again, great reading how to do that, how to set up those budgets and so on, but pretty much it's just kind of guardian police all over your products. And now I would like to talk a bit about the ownership and responsibility. The point is that all of us are responsible for the whole thing, and we should think when we should introduce such stuff. Especially timing really matters here, because sometimes you would like to start doing image optimization from day one, but you probably should focus on the MVP. But you as a developer, you should be actually pushing for that hard. And at the same time, you as a designer, you should be responsible that your designs will be implemented well and will be served fast. So it's a mutual responsibility again. And now let's jump into a few extras, because there was a bunch of theory and, theory is boring. So I would like to show you some stuff. But before we will do that, let's me again cover a few more stuff. So it's not just about the fundamentals and optimization techniques. There is actually more stuff we can kind of achieve and we can play around. I would like to start with the client hints. And client hints is a special thing, which is kind of solving one interesting issue. Let's see this image. You probably know the service Unsplash. It's showing us wonderful images like this kitten. And in fact, they are doing great job with image optimization. But let's see how the code looks like. It's a huge picture element with all the possible sizes. We can see like different image widths and so on. They are kind of optimized for everything from small font to 5K displays, which is kind of huge, isn't it? So just think of it, we can have, let's say, 100 of these image elements or picture elements. So it will result into huge HTML. So we are saving images on one side, but on the other side, we are bloating HTML. And client hints is exactly what is helping us to solve it. So client hints, in a nutshell, is just a new HTTP header, which is allowing us to do such processing on flight. So instead of having the previous huge snippet, we are having just this tiny one. And as you see over there, we do not have any dimension at all. So dimension is being distinguished by providing the viewport from the browser. This technique is not well supported for all the browsers, but luckily we can actually check for that. And based on that, we can serve in different content for different users. There is the support. It's not that good. It's not that bad either. As usual, Safari is quite behind, but yeah, what we can do about it. Another great technique is transparent JPEG. You may be asking, what the hell? What the heck is transparent JPEG? Never heard of it. Yeah, well, all of us, we know that, transparency is usually like coming in hand with GIF or PNG, or like cool guys know that WebP can do that as well, or AWIF. But in fact, we can actually do the transparent JPEGs as well. There is a great article about this or about this technique, and it's pretty much using the SVG masking. So the guy over there, he just masked himself, and then he using clip mask to achieve the end result over here. See, he's dragging the bottom, and JPEG is working basically as a transparent one by using the SVG. This is quite cool. And actually, nowadays, especially considering the WebP and AWIF is not that cool anymore, but still could be a nice fallback for browsers which do not support it, and you're really trying to lower down your page size. And so now I have like one interesting example of one website we built a long time ago. The name is Female Founder. I think it's not actually online anymore, but nonetheless, there is a bunch of stuff we can talk about. So this is how the screenshot, or I mean the hero, looks like, and pretty standard. We know how to optimize it easily. We just use the WebP or AWIF and it's done. But in fact, actually, there's some decent animation. So let's see how it looks like. Yeah, you see, so the lady, she's sliding from the side. Therefore, we need to have like two different images, the background one and lady one. So now let's do some interesting stuff. So this is the first image. We are splitting into this one, the background one, and we know that we can use this SVG masking thingy to kind of lower down our result. So we can easily, from the original, have just 35 JPEG and 2.23 kilobytes of WebP. AWIF is around like similar sizes for that. This is the lady, transparent one. If we will use it by PNG, it's quite large. WebP is smaller. What is actually really cool, we can achieve JPEG with SVG, which is still smaller, but when we are combining WebP, not transparent one, with SVG clip path, it's actually even lower. So this technique is really extreme, but sometimes you just need to do that. And we are not finishing there. So you remember that Honza was telling about the progressive image loading. So this small image is actually the backgrounds, this huge, lovely backgrounds. One of our colleagues found out that if you are actually resizing this background to the very tiny one, and you're applying the Gaussian blur, when you're extending it back, actually there are no like pixelations at all, because Gaussian blur is kind of guaranteeing you that everything's going to be smooth. So you can guess what? This small little guy is super tiny. And I add there just one PNG size, and to conversion a base64. Base64 in that case is really interesting, and the size of it is just the size of a string. But the cool part is that we can actually prevent one more request. We are sending it all over with the HTML. And for elements such as hero, it's really important to serve them immediately. So we are having our guests seeing what they want to see from the very first second. This is how it could look like in the code. So we are just like applying this huge string, and voila, it's done and it's working. And this is one more snippet. And this one more snippet is, again, the SVG with the size of 1.1 kilobytes. And it was this line, this lively thingy, this chart, or how to call it. So this one was actually really easy to achieve by using CSS, or the SVG. So that's why we did it. In opposed, the gradient on the background was actually quite hard to combine with CSS because there was like some decent color shifts. So we decided just to put it with the image. So the idea was that we used a lot of techniques combined all together, and it kind of provided us the best results. And now let's kind of wrap it up because we are running out of time. So just because you're fast, it doesn't mean you can't be faster. Keep your eye on the numbers, work towards the more performant web, and your users will thank you. And it's not just about all the performance, there's a bunch of other fundamentals and pillars. We believe in accessibility, security, stability, and other great stuff. And everything and all of it matters. But yet, performance is just one of the huge pieces you should definitely consider as a low-hanging fruit. And also think of that web is meant to be for everyone. And by everyone, I mean everybody deserves to see the web, regardless if they are working from, I don't know, from the mountains and they're having slow internet, or they're having some accessibility issues. We just should think of it, and it's our responsibility to deliver it to everyone. And in the end of the day, it's actually not just about the image optimization at all, but it's all about having all these pieces together. On the last note, I would like to tell that we don't know all the tricks. We just share some stuff we kind of found interesting. And I believe that all of us together, the community who is doing the whole great job, actually putting and providing such resources for free, we can actually build the more interesting stuff together. And again, by sharing the knowledge, by having the dedicated time and having the group responsibility, setting up the automated maintenance and giving the importance, we can together embrace the performance culture. And performance culture is just one small piece. The other could be the accessibility culture and many others. But yeah, in the end of the day, all together, we can build the better, faster, and a smarter, brave new world. And I believe this is it. As a last note, I would like to share that on the presentation, there is an appendix with a bunch of cool links. You can see the HTTP archive I was referring to. There are a lot of stuff. Really, a lot of them are, or all of them are actually gold, and you should definitely check them out. And now it's time for questions. So I'm stop my sharing, and we can fully focus on the questions. If you have any, of course.
Thank you very much, Danny. And Honza, of course, that was very intense, and I hope that our attendees find that useful. I've been checking the chat and Q&A and as well as the chat on YouTube the whole time thoroughly, but so far I haven't seen any questions. So guys, if you have any question, please feel free to ask. And now we do have one in here in Q&A. Hey there, thanks a lot for hosting the webinar. From the practical perspective, how do you guys decide which approach to use when planning a project with the customer? Did you ever got into a situation where a project required to get the broadest cross-platform compatibility? Hello, Internet Explorer 9. And so let's say you had to give up on WebP.
Yeah, I guess I can definitely cover that up. Well, our case is a bit unusual because we are mainly working for US clients, and luckily there is no much Internet Explorer. But on the other hand, of course, it could be, especially considering my phrase that web's supposed to be work for everyone. In that case, we can always rely on the fallbacks. So fallbacks is something which is coming in hands, and by using the picture element, we can always have WebP and EVIF available for us while preserving the fallback nature for itself. Also, there is a bunch of polyfills providing a lot of functionality. But yeah, luckily, Internet Explorer is not officially supported anymore. So I hope it's going to vanish from the world quite soon. On the other hand, I know still a lot of actually a lot of industries are forced to use it because of like some legacy stuff. So even for those, you should kind of measure it, and the point is you can measure just like not just by using the measurements tools with what we have, but you can also doing the measurements by user. There are a bunch of services doing that, so you can track your analytics and seeing what is actually real visitors are looking like. And you can do that by basically by their needs. On the last note, I would like to tell that actually without the measuring, you don't know what to do. But the good practice is actually start with good practices, You can like start with the great fundamentals, and afterwards you are kind of feeling that it's good. Then you can see the numbers, you can see the measurements, and of course you can adjust it per your needs.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Philip, for such a nice question. I hope to meet you Sunday soon as well. Thank you. Take care. No question so far on YouTube either. Any other question here on Zoom? Oh yeah, we do have one. From Edgar. There was a mention about responsibility. Who should be responsible for image optimizations? Backend devs, frontend devs, or designers?
All of them, all together, because all together they are creating one team, right? And this team is responsible for that. But of course, backends or backend developers, they supposed to do their job, especially trying to optimize those dynamic images, while frontend can actually pinpoint the issues like what they are seeing in their web app. Well, designers can also take a look at that. For instance, in STRV, we have the designers who, after the handovering the designs to our team, they are reviewing the code afterwards. I mean, not the code, the app itself, and they're checking how fast it's loading, or if our optimizations weren't good or are not destroying the design itself. Sometimes you can go crazy. You can select like the quality of JPEG for 50, and then it's a bit like pixelated. So then there is designer who's checking again the quality. But in the end of the day, it's responsibility is everyone's, because all of us, we are building the product together.
Exactly. I can just share and adapt that we actually organized that workshop internally at STRV company-wide, and even some project managers attended that meeting. So we really believe that this should be spreaded and well-known tactic for having better web. Thank you, Edgar, for the question. Is there any other else? Oh yeah, we do have one from Taima. Thank you very much. Where we can get the recorded workshop and resources? I'm pretty sure that we're gonna share that soon, and probably Kate, I can see her face here, so she'll probably add more.
Yeah, maybe I can step in. We will be sending you all this information via after event emails, so you don't have to be worried about that, not getting that.
Yeah, I'm sure that there were a lot of links within the presentation, so you're gonna, of course, have a room for clicking out on everything in there, what was mentioned by Danny and Hamza. Cool, I'm checking the YouTube, there's no question, and few people still watching. We still do have 30 attendees on Zoom, and I can see some familiar names to me. Hi guys, I hope that you are all safe. And now I feel like a YouTuber actually. Just sitting alone in my room and talking to the computer. So that's funny. Is there any other question? Oh yeah, from Honza Truxa. Do you have any favorite tool to convert images into WebP?
Well, there are a bunch of them. I would say it really depends on your use case. There is, for instance, when you have dynamic images, you can do that by libvips. It's basically, or ImageMan. Those libraries are like low level, and that they're providing you just to provide it like on flight as needed. On the other hand, if you have just one image, you can freely to use Squoosh app or such, internet-based thingies. It's quite easy and straightforward to do that. In the end of the day, there are also services like this Cloudinary or Imgix, and they're providing those WebPs out of the box. So that could be the answer for that.
Thank you, Honza, for your question. Right now, this one, it's not a question, but more just saying thank you from Susanna. Thank you, guys, very useful. Thank you as well, Susanna, for joining. Definitely. And another question from Edgar. Are there any plans to have similar workshop for videos, GIFs, the animated images? The videos seem to be a very different beast from images.
Yeah, it's actually a great question. Thank you for that. Well, though our, let's say, priority is a bit different, we would like to focus on security and accessibility in the next chapters of similar workshops, but definitely it's a great stuff we should focus on. So far, I would like just to recommend a few good practices. So first of all, do not use GIFs at all, because GIF, by its kind of nature, is really huge. So rather than that, use video instead. And the second thing is, if you have videos, well, there are a bunch of streaming services, YouTube and Vimeo and similar. You can easily embed those, and actually it's really worth to even pay for the Vimeo Pro just to kind of achieve the best results. Because in the end of the day, it's gonna save you tons of the headaches and will just provide the best result you can think of. But yeah, thank you for the question. We'll definitely think about internally how to cover that up. We have actually also, you can check actually our, I think, strv.io. We're supposed to have low streaming services stuff, like a few case studies on that portion as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Edgar. And if there are any other suggestions where with our team we should take a look into and dig more and prepare some other stuff to share with you, feel free to suggest. More than happy to listen to you. And still no question on YouTube.
Yeah, by the way, I would like to remind that you don't need to necessarily use Q&A. You can just raise your hands and you can just ask your question directly.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of suggestions of the new topics, I think I can now step in and just tell everyone that we will really appreciate your feedback, and you should be able to see it once you close your Zoom. But to make sure that all of you got it, I'm gonna be posting it into the chat right now, so you can get there from here as well. And there's also space for you to tell us whatever you want or whatever topics you want us to cover next time. So thank you very much in advance.
One more question in the meantime, received on Q&A from Honza Truxa again. Not related to image optimization, but do you plan on doing another series of React Nights? I can take that one. We've been, of course, thinking about that, and we've been coming up with several ideas, but so far, as the COVID situation isn't that clear, so we have decided that we won't organize that online, as the main benefit of the React Nights was mainly that we can see each other at the STRV office, and that you can have people on our team as your mentors. And so that was the main interaction that we enjoyed the most, and we believe that also the students enjoyed. And so instead of that, we're gonna probably come up with few similar webinars like that, and hopefully next year, once the situation gets a bit better, we're gonna definitely revisit the topic, because that's definitely something that we enjoy. And probably the last thing to that, if you're really curious about what we've done in 2019 when we held the last academy called React Nights, it's all open sourced and you can find it on strv.io. Thank you, Honza. Oh, now there's another question from Philip, and it's a bit longer, so let me read it. If I may follow up on the last question, would you have any tip or a best practice on how may I convert a big video into GIF? I know Danny just mentioned that it's not a great idea in general to use GIFs. However, I've seen a lot of it used in on the Behance by UX and UI designers. I myself am trying to compose on with the visualization of my prototype. I'd be glad if you could point me into the right direction. Thanks. So I will just ask the question once again, as this was quite long. If I may follow on the last question, would you have any tip or best practice on how may I convert a big video into GIF?
To be honest, I have frankly no idea. But what we can do, we can stay in touch, you can ping us, and we can actually get back to you. We can ask our designers, since they are posting stuff on Behance quite often, so we can ask how they are doing that. If it works, of course.
Yeah, I have no idea either. So sorry. And another message, more like a message, not a question, from Edgar. Thanks for the presentation and insights. Was interesting to hear. Hope to visit Prague soon enough after things calm down a bit. Stay healthy, everyone. That's beautiful message. Thank you, and we wish that to everybody else as well. So if there's no other question, I think that was beautiful message that we can wrap up the whole thing with. I'm just gonna check the last time the YouTube, and there's no question. So I'm passing my word to Kate to wrap it up.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I think that's it. Firstly, thank you very much to speakers, to Daniel for moderating it, and to all attendees, whether it was here on Zoom or on our YouTube channel. As I said, it was a really great show up, and I think that overall it was a really nice event. So the next STRV event we are planning will be iOS Talk, where we will dig deeper into the apps subscriptions. And but I can promise you that we are preparing another front-end talks and workshops at the beginning of next year. So if you are interested in that, just you can check the Eventbrite or the event section on our websites and register there, and that's it. So, and since we want to be proud of everything we are doing, as I said, we would really appreciate your feedback, so we can improve for next time. And yeah, and that's it. So you can check the link, or you will see it after you close your Zoom. And that's all from me. So thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Stay safe and have a nice evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.